Hello everyone, welcome back to Virtual Sunday School. So today we are talking about a story in the Bible, and here today to help us tell the story are Harmon and Hinges.
My name is Hinges and I'm first grade.
My name is Harmon and I'm in third grade. And right now we're at my porch.
All right, friends. So we are starting back our story again today after the 10 Commandments. So God gave Moses the 10 best ways to live in an ark. So Harmon, can you show us what that looks like? So after they got the 10 Commandments, they put it in this really fancy case so they could carry it around. And so they carried it around, and you see those 4 pegs. 4 different people had to carry it because it was so heavy. And so the people of God carried that and were making their way into the Promised Land. So these people, the people of God, they settled into the Promised Land because they were so tired. So this is long after Moses has lived and died. So they would travel and they would carry their ark with the 10 Commandments in it. So they would carry it and they would build a little tabernacle with tents on their travel. So Harmon, can you show everyone the way that they would travel with it?
It would be more people, but
it would be more people. That's right.
I'm just going to use 2 people. See, these 2 people. So they're carrying the stone thing.
Yeah. So they would carry it, and on their travel, so they'd build it one place, and they'd stay the night, and then they'd pack it up again, and they'd move on to the next place, and they'd load it up, and they'd do it all again. So they kept loading and unloading this Ark of the Covenant that has this 10 Commandments inside of it. So it was this very, very powerful ark, and that's what we're going to start calling it. So finally they got close to a place, and they started to build, not this one, but they started to build a little smaller temple. But then the Philistines kicked them out. So they kicked them out of their temple, so they had to keep traveling again with their stuff. So after the Philistines had kicked them out of their church, they realized as long as they had the 10 Commandments and they believed in God, their church was wherever they worshiped God. Well, finally, there was a man named King David who heard about them and called them and asked them to come and bring the ark down to Jerusalem. Once the people of God came down, they saw King David and they brought the ark down to him. King David was so excited when he saw the ark that he danced before them. Let's see some dancing. Yeah. So before they built the ark, David realized he was not allowed to build a house for God because David was unfortunately a man of war. So he called on his son Solomon. Solomon would build the temple. All of the people had to help build the temple. Some went to the north to cut down and bring home great cedar trees. They cut stones out of the mountains nearby and prepared the wood and stone to begin. The temple began to grow and people were amazed. There was a great hall for people to come close to God. And there was an inner room called the Holy of Holies, which was for the ark. The temple was beautiful with carvings of olive wood and gold. The great timbers of cedar made it smell wonderful. Inside the temple were the same things that helped them get ready to meet God when they were in the desert. The ark was the first thing that was carried inside. They also laid an altar down to put the ark on top of that they then put incense in front of. Fragrant smoke filled the temple as the incense burned. Next, we will put in the table that has bread on it. So there are 12 little pieces of bread that Hinges has on that table. And it's going to go inside, and those 12 pieces are going to represent the 12 tribes on it. And finally, they put the menorah with its 7 branches and lamps burning. That's right. Good job. On the day that the priests finally did carry the ark inside, a great cloud of dazzling light filled the temple, and it was clear that God was there. So the last thing they set up was going to be a little miniature altar and a water basin. so that people who didn't have time to go into the temple could quickly bless and anoint themselves as they walked past. So finally, the temple was ready. People came in and began to pray. And on the day that it was ready, the king came before all the people and prayed for them and for the temple. And Solomon, who had been really, really important to helping make sure the temple was created, was also there as well to pray and bless the temple. When King David prayed, he asked God to allow that God's name would abide in the temple. King David also asked God to make this a place for people to come and pray and to find justice. And that went on for a really, really long time. And finally, King David lived a long time and passed the rule along to Solomon. And Solomon ruled well and was wise. Some said he was wiser than anyone in the world. His father had been famous for his songs in war, but Solomon was famous for his wise sayings and, of course, building the temple. All right, so thank you, Harmon and Hinges. You all did such a great job helping. So I don't know if you all know this, but this temple still exists today in Jerusalem. Did you know that?
What? No.
Yeah, so when you go to Jerusalem, if you ever have a chance to go, the temple is actually gone. It's not really fully there. It was destroyed when the people of God were taken into exile. So at some point, the people were kicked out again, but they did rebuild it. But sadly, it was destroyed again. But they rebuilt it again when Jesus was around. So when Jesus was alive, they rebuilt the temple one more time. But today, it's actually just kind of withered away because that was so long ago. So there are still little bits left of the temple, but actually it doesn't really look much like a temple anymore. It's just more like rocks and kind of what looks like used to be a wall. Yeah, that's how it normally would look back a long time ago. But it was a really important temple for the Jewish people. It was really important for people moving forward and the people of God.
Yeah.
All right, Harmon. So why don't you tell me, what is something you learned about our story today?
Well, actually, I didn't really hear this story before, but the most thing I learned was there's a temple somewhere. I didn't even know there was a temple.
Yeah, that's really cool. I actually learned a lot about this story too recently. I didn't realize that temple still existed for so long. That's kind of cool. Yeah.
I also didn't know they kept on building it and building it.
Yeah, they found it to be like really, really important. You know, a lot of times we think that our churches and our temples are really important, and I think that they are. But, you know, we haven't really been back at church for a while now. What do you miss most about being at church in person?
I miss, everyone's at home, so, well, what I miss about going to church most would probably be, how at church we celebrate, at church...
Like communion?
Communion, giving the bread, but at home you're just, watching the videos. You're not really doing anything. So
you don't get to participate the way you used to. That's what you miss the most. Yeah. I think that's true. You don't get to really sing with your friends or, yeah. I get that. Well, I appreciate it. Well, thanks, Harmon. All right, Hinges. So why don't you share with your friends something that you learned from our story today?
I didn't know, what the 10 Commandments
in the Ark? Yeah, that's an interesting thing that I learned recently too. Well, so kind of like what I was talking about with Harmon, the temple for people was really important, and the church for people is really important. What's something that you miss about going to church, in person?
I miss my friends.
Yeah, you miss your friends. Yeah, I'm sure they miss you too. All right, thanks, Hinges.
Today we're talking about doing church at home. It has been so long that we've been at home. And I really miss going to church, but I have to admit, I do like sitting on the couch in my pajamas for church right now. One drawback of doing it at home is I find it easier to get distracted in a way that I don't do at church. Sometimes I might get distracted thinking about other things I want to do around the house or outside that day. Sometimes I might just look out the window and tell me if something like this has ever happened to you. You look out the window and, I see a bird in that tree. Well, that reminds me of the birds in the backyard. That reminds me that the birds in the backyard probably don't have food at the feeder. Yep, I think I don't have food in my bird feeder. I should get food. I wonder if I still have bird food. Well, nope, I think I used up the last of it. I'm probably going to need to go to the store today and get some bird seed. I wonder what kind of bird seed I should get. One kind of bird seed is good for bluebirds. One kind of bird seed is good for another kind of birds. And if I'm doing all of that in my head, I'm not paying attention anymore. It can be so hard to do. One thing that we have found helpful that keeps us from looking out the window and thinking about all the other things that we're going to do that day is to have a special activity that we reserve just for when we're watching church on Sunday mornings. So I wanted to share a few things that we do at my house while we watch church that help us stay a little more focused and keep our minds from wandering a little bit. And this week, I want you to see if you can find something that helps you tune out some of the other distractions of your house while we're still doing church in the house. So we have a little basket of things, and these are just reserved for church time on Sunday mornings. So we have some little puzzles. They're just teeny tiny pieces to just put together the puzzle. We have different kinds of coloring books with just the kinds where you can color in different shapes. Some hidden pictures where you're looking and trying to find something in particular. One of my kids got a latch hook project for Christmas, and he's been doing it only during Sunday mornings on church, and so we've joked that we have now gone to church for about half of a puppy face. This is going to be a puppy face when it's done, but it's a project he only brings out, and he does a row every week while we're listening to church. If we don't have anything else in the house to do with our hands, I keep some paper, and we do these. They kind of remind me of the stained glass windows at church a little bit. I take a pen, and you can see I just made a scribble-scrabble design all over the paper. When I did it, I tried to make sure I was crossing over some big spaces, and some are small spaces like that. And then I used colored pencils, but you could use crayons or markers too. And I color in the spaces, and when you finish with the whole thing, it looks a little bit like a stained glass window. So we have a basket of those things that are quiet, that they help us not to distract each other. And they help us focus on the words that we're hearing for church. So this week, I want you to take a look around your house and try to find something that will help you tune out the other distractions of the things in your house that might make you think of other things you want to do that day or that week. They should be quiet things that don't distract other people in your family while you're watching. See if you can find those things this week and put them in a basket or in a special place so that next Sunday for church, you can sit down and have your thing to do. I'll see you next week. Bye-bye.